Hi, I'm Jo from J.H.Leather, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create your own raised leather watch strap. Now I'm also going to be showing you how I go about creating templates for watch straps, and you can use that knowledge to then go on and create straps for any watch face that you like. Let's get started. Okay, so this is the watch strap that we are going to be replacing. The strap on this is quite basic and the buckle has actually been lost. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the strap and use it as a template for the new one, because this actually fits the owner really well on the middle hole here. To remove the strap, we are going to need a tool for this. And now this one, as you can see, is from Watch Obsession, and it's also where I got the buckle from. And on one end, we have got a little fork end attachment, and that is for removing if you've got spring lugs. And on this one, we have got just a pointed end for if you've got just like a fixed lug that's holding the parts of the watch together. What I'm going to do is on this strap, I'm going to be using the pointed one because it's got fixed lugs, and I'm just going to put that in the hole, and it's going to want to go one way more than the other. So there we go. I can just pull that out, and just to keep it safe, I'm just going to put that back in. So we've now got one part of our strap free, and we'll do the same on the bottom. I'll just push that back in where it came from. So we've now got our watch face free, and we're going to put that off to one side. We don't need that now for the minute. So now we have our straps removed, what we're going to do is take our measurements from them so we know what size to make our new ones. So what we're going to do is just measure each one and write that down. So I'm just going to draw a really rough one as I go, so I've got an idea as to what everything is, so I don't have to keep picking this one up to measure it. And we've got 120 millimeters long. And then on this top side, we've got 24 millimeters. And then it does have a taper, so we're going to measure it down here as well, and that is 20. So there's only a slight taper, but there is a taper there. And our center hole, which is the one that is being used the most, as you can see, it's this one here. And that one from the top is 68 millimeters. So we've got our rough guide here for our top one, and we're now going to do the same with our buckle end. And this doesn't have to be an award-winning art piece, this is just a guide for us to use. So what we already know is it's going to be 20 at this end and 24 at this end, so we just need the overall length, which for this one is going to be 84. Okay, so these are our rush measurements that we're now going to be using throughout the rest of this video. Once you've taken your measurements for your watch straps, what I like to do is actually put them into Adobe Illustrator and make up a template that I can then print out and use. Now what I've done is also added a filler, because I want to make this strap slightly raised just to give it a bit more of a high-end feel to it. And so to get the right size for your filler, what I like to do is create the external shape that I need for my watch strap, and then do an offset path of -4 millimeters, and that is going to create the right size filler that we are going to need. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate the whole lot and then print that out so I have two of the same patterns just in case I need more. Now I've printed off my patterns, what I'm going to do is reinforce them onto some card to make them a little bit easier to use. And then I'm going to accurately cut them out. Once you have your card patterns cut out, they should fit nicely onto your watch. And what we're going to do is we can start making the actual straps. For this, I'm going to be using some goat skin, and it has already been pre-split at the suppliers down to 1.1 to 1.2 millimeters thick. Okay, so with my leather laid out flat across my desk here, what I'm going to do is cut a strip that is wider than what I need it to be, and then we can cut it down to size. So for the filler for this watch strap, we are going to be using 1.5mm vegetable tan leather. And what I'm going to do is start by drawing around my filler shape and then cutting that out nice and accurately. Once we've done that, we can skive that squared end down to nothing, and that is about a centimetre long skive there. And then we can start preparing our main watch strap leather. So what I'm going to do is on a squared end of my goat skin is draw a line at 1/2 inch or 12mm, and that is going to be my turnover. And I can then cut the rest of the strap just longer than what that part of the watch strap is going to be. And I am going to cut 2 of these, and I'm going to skive one end down to nothing. And then on one of them, what I'm going to do is draw a central line down the middle so that I can use that as a guide for later. What we can do then is apply glue to all 3 parts. And now then, to emulate the bar that's going to be in the turn, we're going to use a needle. So I'm using one of the larger John James needles here. And what I'm going to do is actually glue that into the turn. And this works really well actually at being a bar for your watch strap. And we can make sure that runs loose. And then once we've got that in and secured, we can glue our filler on, trying to get that as central as possible. We can then scruff the surface up on this to help our glue stick, and then apply glue all over this side of our watch strap, making sure we get that right up and around that filler. Once the glue has gone tacky, we can then glue on our second piece of leather, and we're going to want that skived end right up in that turn. And we're just going to glue that onto the flat bit because we're actually going to flip it over to do our shaping. What we're going to do is use a single crease or a bone folder to define where our filler is. And we're just going to work that around the edge. And if you want, like me, I've actually done both belts and braces here with the single crease and then going around with the bone folder as well, making sure that that bottom edge of that filler has got the leather nicely glued up tight to it. So you can see I've got my filler nicely defined there. And what I'm going to do is mark on the centre so that I can mark the cutout, because the ends of mine do have a cutout shape on them to fit onto the watch face. So I'm going to mark those on and then cut those out. So you can see this is what my point strap is looking like at the moment, and what we're going to do is do our stitch marking. So I'm using a 3.38mm iron here, and we're going to have it so that we have one tooth over the edge on that top end. And we're going to stitch mark all the way through and all the way around. Once we've done that, we can then do our stitching. So we're going to be double hand stitching, starting with 2 back stitches, and we're not going to be doing one over the edge here because this can rub onto the actual watch face. And so once you've done your back stitches, you can then stitch the rest of this watch strap as you normally would, finishing with 1.5 back stitches on the other end so that both ends match. So once we've got our watch strap stitched, what we can do is mark on for the holes. So I'm just going to mark the center hole here, and then I'm just going to double check that that is definitely in the center with my dividers. And then I'm going to use this new tool that I've got, which is specifically for making holes in watch straps. And the holes on this fit the buckle that I have used. And so what I'm going to do is put that on and make sure that that is all central first. And then I'm going to hit that all the way through. Now my filler and the rest of the strap is quite thick at this point where I'm putting the holes through, which is why I think some of the holes didn't punch all the way through. It's not anything to do with the tool. I think it's just that this leather is quite thick here. And so you should now have your watch strap looking like this. And so we're going to trim the excess off of our strap. We're going to set our dividers to the desired width. Now for this specific strap that I am making, that was around 1.5 to 2 millimeters wide. And I'm going to draw a line around the strap and then trim this off. Now for this strap, I've also got myself a teeny tiny 0.6 millimeter edge tool, and I'm just going to take off the very edge on both sides with that. And that's going to give me a slightly more round edge rather than having to build that up with layers of edge paint. And we're going to make sure we do both sides of the strap. And then we can start applying some edge paint. So as well as the edges, I'm actually going to be putting some edge paint on the inside of the strap holes. And to do that, I am just going to be using a needle. And I'm going to apply a few layers of edge paint around the edge of the watch strap as they dry. If you are enjoying this video and would like to learn how to create more Leathercraft projects, then I have a whole range of printable PDF pattern packs and durable acrylic templates available for you to purchase via my website jhleather.co.uk, or you can head to the links in the description. Now we have finished on the point strap, we can do our buckle end. So what we're going to do is we are going to roughly mark out the length that we're going to need. So we're going to have 2 turns on this, so we're going to want this to be larger than our actual pattern piece. And we're going to want 2 pieces. And we can also cut out our filler here out of the same 1.5mm vegetable tan leather we use for the other side of our strap. And once we've drawn around that, we can cut that out. And now on this strap, we are going to be skiving the filler down to nothing on both ends. And with our main strap, we can skive one end down to nothing. And I've also drawn a central line down here to help with my gluing a bit later on. And before cutting it to size, what we're going to do is actually glue one of the ends down to make our turn. And then we can double check the length is right before doing the same on the other end. So what we're going to do is apply our glue. And once that's gone tacky, we can glue in another needle here. And then to help define the turn, we can use a single crease and just push that up against the edge of the needle. And then I'm going to place my pattern back on to make sure I've got the right length and just mark where the turn on the other end of this strap needs to be. And then once I'm happy, I can skive that end down to nothing as well. Once skived, I can then glue that end down again with a needle in it to emulate the lug that's going to be in the watch strap. And then once I've got the main part of my strap to the right length, what I can do is mark on for where my filler is going to go. So I'm going to continue that center line down over the 2 turns, just so I know where that is. And then I'm going to apply some glue to this and my filler and glue the 2 pieces together. Once I've done that with my piece of leather that's going to be on the other side of this strap, what I'm going to do is mark the overall length needed and then skive both ends down to nothing. And once I've done that, I can then glue our 2 pieces together. And once again, using a single crease or a bone folder, I can use that to mark out and define where that filler is in this strap. And once I'm happy, I can then mark on the end where I'm going to trim to. And then trim that down. And now with my buckle, I'm going to see what size screw I'm going to need to punch. So the length of this screw doesn't matter, it's the width. Once you're happy you've got the right width, you can then put that onto the very end of your strap and then punch that all the way through, and that's going to give you a nice little tiny screw hole. Once we have then done that, we can then go along and stitch mark both sides with our stitch marker, again having one tooth over the edge at the end that is going to be attaching to our watch. And now we're going to trim this one before we stitch it because we've got to add in a loop. So I'm going to have my dividers set as they were before and draw my trim lines on. And then trim the excess off this strap. And go over it with the teeny tiny edge tool that I have. And we're going to do that on both sides. And now I'm also going to cut a loop. So what I'm going to do is with some scrap piece of my goat skin leather, I'm going to mark 1/4 of an inch or 6 millimeters and cut a little strip. And then what I can do is apply my edge paint along the long edges of this so that it is nice and finished when we put it into the strap. So at this point I am going to apply some edge finish to the sides of my strap, but we're just going to do one layer here because we're going to need to open this up again to put the loop in. Now to make this easier for yourself, you can actually have your buckle end turn on the outside rather than on the inside like what I have done in this video, and that's going to make it easier to put the loop in. Once you're happy with the edges of your buckle turn, what we're going to do is just open up the end where we're going to have our loop. So I'm just going to cut that open because remember we have got glue all over this, and we're going to open that up so we can fit our loop through. Now we've done that, we've got room enough for our loop, we can put our looping strip through. We're going to cut this to size. So with the strap on top, what we're going to do is wrap the loop around both parts of the watch strap and mark where the two ends will meet. And then we can cut that down to size. To make sure I'm getting this in the middle of the strap, what I'm going to do is hold that in the center and mark on with my silver pen where the edge of the leather is, and then I can use that as a guide as to how far my loop can sit into this strap. And then I can place that in between the layers. Once I'm happy with where the loop placement is, I can just go over that with my stitch marker just to make the holes go through the loop as well. And then I can start stitching. So again, we're going to start with 2 back stitches and then do the saddle stitch method along the rest of the length of this strap. Once you've done the one side, you can then push your loop in between the layers on the other side, making sure that it is nice and even and it's not wonky. And then you can stitch the other side of your watch strap. Now when you do get to the loop on this side, because we haven't gone all the way through the loop with a stitch marker, you will need to use an awl. So when you get up to the edge of your loop, you can put your awl through and line it up with the hole on the other side, because we have stitch marked this all the way through. And then you can continue your stitching. Remember to put your needle through the loop so your needles and thread are in the right location and you don't end up with a stitch going on top of your loop. Once you've stitched your loop in, you can then finish your stitching as normal with 1.5 back stitches. So to get around having to put a running loop on this watch strap, what I have done is moved the fixed loop down, so it's actually caught in the 3rd stitch. And the reason for this is because I know what size this watch strap needs to be to fit the owner on the middle hole. And so when the buckle is done up, the tail of this strap isn't going to be flapping around and it is going to be nice and secure just under that one single fixed loop. And once we've done that, we can add some more edge paint to the edges of our watch strap, and you can do this in as many layers as you like to get the finish that you want on the edges of this strap. Now we have our watch straps pretty much done, we can start to put them together. So we're going to start by removing the spring on our buckle and setting that into 3 pieces. And then we're going to put the lug through one side of our buckle turn. And then when we get to the center, we can fit the tongue back on. And then push that all the way through to the other side of our strap. And we can now fit the buckle back on now. So we're going to push one end of the spring into the hole on one side of the buckle and then use our little watch strap tool to fit the other side. And you can see that that is now nice and secure. Now to fit these on to our watch face, we're going to just remove the lugs that are there. And then one at a time fit the straps to the watch face. Making sure the ends of those lugs aren't protruding out of the watch face. And we can do that on both ends. And you want to make sure you have your strap the right way up when you're doing this. And you can see the before straps and our nice new after straps. So it is quite an upgrade for this little watch here. And you should now have your watch and your straps looking something like this. And so that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching and you learned something new and you now have yourself a fancy watch strap. So if you liked the video, please click that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing for more videos and tutorials, and I shall see you in the next video.